guns pointed at them. CBS 2 investigator Dave Savini exposes.
Did anybody knock?
No.
They just came in?
First, they busted through the doors of his family's apartment, and then came the guns.
They had their finger on a trigger.
A lot of guns. Handguns and assault rifles like these.
So they were pointing the guns at your sisters?
Mm-hmm.
What were you thinking then?
I'm thinking maybe they were going to get shot.
8-year-old J.J. Jackson was playing in his room when Chicago police burst in. His 11-year-old sister, Talia, says guns were in their faces.
I was afraid and confused.
And tonight, a disturbing pattern continues as more families are accusing Chicago police of bad raids.
Chicago police search warrant!
Busting in homes and drawing weapons on innocent families.
How many of you had guns pointed at you?
Including Jolanda Blassingame's family.
And I felt scared for my life.
Her boys were playing video games while she was cooking dinner when she says police threw a flashbang grenade into her home.
How many of you were told to get down on the ground?
All right, guys, I do have a Tuesday morning editorial for you. Comes out of Chicago, and it appears that the Chicago Police Department just may need to be defunded. They need a whole new police department. And some of these cops are still working as cops there. Wow. Now, this story is really long. I'm not going to give you the whole story. I'm going to put a link to it in the description box below. There's supposed to be some video footage in the story. But if you think you're free, I've said it, I'll say it again and again. You are only as free as law enforcement allows you to be, because law enforcement has the power of government and the authority of government behind them. As someone else found out and learned the naked truth. Thank you to Chicago CBS Local for this story. For the first time, police body camera video reveals what an innocent woman said happened to her nearly 2 years ago.
We found if they would have done a little bit more research, they might have found where the target actually lived.
Yes.
I think Screw Up was being too kind.
Police officers wrongly entered her home with guns drawn and handcuffed her naked as she watched in horror.
The first thing police reach for is not clothing.
It's handcuffs.
There were big guns and guns with lights and scopes on them, and they were yelling at me, you know, put your hands up, put your hands up.
Last year, Ann Jeanette Young filed a Freedom of Information Act request for the video to show the public what happened to her that day. CBS 2 also filed a request for the video, but the Chicago Police Department denied the requests. Young recently obtained the footage after a court forced Chicago Police Department to turn it over as part of her lawsuit against the police. Ann Jeanette Young said, "I feel like they didn't want us to have this video because they knew how bad it was. They knew they had done something wrong. They knew that the way they treated me was not right." Hours before the TV version of this report broadcast, the city's lawyers attempted to stop CBS 2 from airing the video by filing an emergency motion in federal court. The video reveals on February 21st, 2019, 9 body cameras rolled as a group of male officers entered her home at 7 p.m. Not long before, the licensed social worker finished her shift at the hospital and had undressed in her bedroom. That's when she heard a loud pounding noise. Outside, officers repeatedly struck her door with a battering ram. From various angles, the video captured the moments they broke down the door and burst through her home. Ann Jeanette Young said as she watched the video, "It was so traumatic to hear the thing that was hitting the door, and it happened so fast, I didn't have time to put on clothes." As they rushed inside with guns drawn, officers yelling, "Police search warrant," and "Hands up, hands up, hands up." Seconds later, Young could be seen in the living room, shocked and completely naked, with her hands up. As Jeanette Young remembers, there were big guns with lights and scopes on them. And they were yelling at me, "You know what? Put your hands up, put your hands up." Young looked terrified and confused as she watched officers search the home. An officer put her hands behind her back and handcuffed her as she stood naked. Young yells in the video, "What is going on? There's nobody else here. I live alone."
I don't know who that person is. I've been living here for 4 years and nobody lives here but me. Okay.
Then, during the raid, something happens. Watch as two of the officers go to their squad car and begin reviewing their notes about the warrant. CPD would not comment on what you're about to hear the officers saying a few minutes later.
It wasn't initially approved or some crap.
What does that mean?
I have no idea, because they told him it was approved, and then I guess that person messed up on their end.
Messed up is an understatement. So, where was the target? Our investigation revealed he was awaiting trial on home confinement here at a different apartment in Anjanette Young's complex. How easy would it have been to locate him? Easy, real easy, because he was wearing a police tracking device, an electronic monitoring bracelet. It's possible he could have even heard the raid happening, because records show he was confined to the unit right next door.
And now it goes through different quotes that she says. They talked to her about it. And they say here, and like so many other wrong raids CBS 2 uncovered, the one on Young's home could have been avoided. Using body camera video and police court records, CBS 2 pieced together moment by moment not only how Young was treated during the raid, but also how police failed to check the bad tip that led them there. According to Chicago Police Department's complaint for search warrant, one day before the raid, a confidential informant told the affiant, or lead officer in the raid, that he recently saw a 23-year-old man who was a known felon with guns and ammunition. Now, you know what a confidential informant is, right? Huh? That's a thug. That's a snitch. In most cases. You know what that means? He ain't giving you the truth. He gonna lie to you anyway. Despite no evidence in the complaint that police made efforts to independently verify the informant's tip, such as conducting surveillance or additional checks as required by policy, the search warrant was approved by an assistant state's attorney and a judge. Now, they didn't even do surveillance or any types of checks. They just said, oh, that's it? That's where he lives? Cool, we're going in. This is a confidential informant, which in most cases is a thug that's snitching. A liar with authority. Kind of like some cops, right? But CBS 2 quickly found through police and court records the informant gave the police the wrong address. The 23-year-old suspect police were looking for actually lived in the unit next door to Anjanette Young at the time of the raid and had no connection to her. CBS 2 also found police could have easily tracked the suspect's location and where he really lived, because at the time of the raid, he was wearing an electronic monitoring device. How the hell did they end up in the wrong apartment? So I don't know. Is it time to get rid of the mayor? Maybe do a recall? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. Another snafu by the cops. Community Leo Watch, watching Leos, that's law enforcement officers, to include dirty Chicago cops from coast to coast.